Howdy, I'm Kurt Williams, and these are today's new comics. This was a really expensive week for me. There's a lot of new comics that came out today, a lot of number ones, lots of things to be excited about. But before I get into it, I'm moving to Georgia, right? And I thought before I left it might be cool to do a video about all my favorite stores up here in Michigan. And then I thought it might be even cooler if I went to every single comic store in Michigan and rated them. And then I did some research and I found like 68 comic stores in Michigan. And I'm not saying that it's not worth the effort, because honestly the more ambitious it is, the more I just want to do it to prove that I can. But it will be really expensive just paying for gas, so I don't want to do it if nobody wants to watch that video. So if you'd be interested in seeing all the comic stores in Michigan compared to each other, let me know. Alright, let's get into the comics. The first issue I have here is issue 1 of Ultimate X-Men by Peach Momoko. This is really exciting. Peach Momoko was like an overnight superstar in the world of comics. She has this gorgeous, really well-developed style. She did a whole bunch of non-canon X-Men comics. The whole Demon Days thing that she did was really well done, super artistic. It's just got a lot of heart and thought put into it. I know that this issue has not received the same crazy high reviews that Ultimate Spider-Man and Ultimate Black Panther even got, but I do trust Peach Momoko to have a really poetic, heartfelt way of saying things, and I'm really excited to see what she says about X-Men in this Ultimate Universe where maybe mutants don't even exist. I don't know what the maker did. I'll find out when I read the issue. Next, we got issue 1 of Spectacular Spider-Man. We got Humberto Ramos on his triumphant return to a Spider-Man title. I love seeing Humberto Ramos on Spider-Man titles. Spider Island from, I think, 2011 was the first time that I read a new Spider-Man comic, and it just stuck with me. I love his style. It's perfect for Spider-Man to me. I don't know nothing about Greg Weisman, but I'm really excited to read this issue, and I'll probably be reviewing it in the next couple days here. Then we've got issue 1 of Weapon X-Men by Christos, Gage, and an illustrator whose name I won't even try to pronounce. It's a big week for Marvel. They got a few really high-profile issue number 1s. This is an issue with a whole bunch of alternate dimension Wolverines, and honestly, I'm over the whole multiverse thing. I think it's been overdone for a long time now. I'm not excited to see more of it in the MCU. I just feel like when you have too many options for characters, you can throw as many ideas as you want into a story all at once, it just kind of suffers. So I honestly don't have very high expectations for this, but I'll probably be reviewing it later in the week as well. Next, I got issue 3 of Pine and Merrimack by Kyle Starks and Fran Galán. I love this series. I reviewed the first issue. I recommend you go check out that video. I finally had the chance to read the second issue, and it doesn't disappoint. It's the same quality as issue 1. I wholeheartedly recommend checking out this title. It's only the 3rd issue, so it'd be really easy to catch up on it. Then we got issue 16 of Kaya by Wes Craig. This is one of the greatest comic books coming out right now. I recommend this one wholeheartedly as well. It's a really great coming-of-age adventure story with just gorgeous artwork. Everything about his art is so well done. I have never seen a panel in any of the 15 issues that I've read that I didn't like or that I thought was kind of clunky. Wes Craig is on his A-game 24/7 for this title, and I love it. Then we got issue 32 of X-Men by Gerry, Duggan, and Phil Noto. I'm finally caught up on all the X-Men stuff. I had to sit down and just read a bunch of comics for a few hours so I could catch up, and I still don't really care about the X-Men comics. Normally, Phil Noto's art is a huge selling point for me, but in issue 31, where he also illustrated it, it just wasn't really doing it for me. I don't know. If you're not caught up with the X-Men, I would just wait for the whole thing to blow over. They're gonna give up on it soon anyway. Then we got issue 1 of Miss Marvel Mutant Menace. Why do we have a reboot of the series that we just had already? Well, I don't know. Looks like Iman Vellani is still co-writing it, which is, I guess, neither good nor bad. She's the actress who plays Miss Marvel in the MCU. I may be pleasantly surprised by this, but my expectations are pretty low. Next, we got issue 7 of Void Rivals by Robert Kirkman and Lorenzo de Felici. Now, I've only read the first 3 issues of the series, and I'm not really in love with it yet, but as I flip through this issue, it looks really interesting. I definitely want to get to the point where I can appreciate issue 7, because I don't think I even have issues 4 and 5 yet. Maybe the series is just a slow burn. I don't know. If you've read it and you liked it, why do you like it? Next up, we got issue 1 of Torpedo 1972 by Enrique, Sanchez, Abuli, and Eduardo Risso. I don't know anything about this series. I thought that Rizzo's art in Moonshine was pretty good, and I love period pieces, so I figured it was worth a try. Next, I've got issue 1 of The Fog. That's from Sumerian Comics. It's written by Steve Ekstrom and drawn by Marco Foderà. And it's apparently the ultimate experience in terror. As I flip through it, it looks like kind of low-resolution Lionel Francis Yu art, and it's got really bright bright colors on it, so I'm definitely not terrorized yet. But hey, the design on this cover is really well done. That's something that I've noticed from Sumerian titles in general, is they have really good cover design. So I don't know anything about this, I'll let you know if it's good. Then I've got issue 1 of Night People, that's from Oni Press, which I don't see very often. This is apparently based on the novel by Barry Gifford, and it's written by Chris Condon, who you might recognize from Local Man, and illustrated by Brian Level, who I've never heard of. As I page through it, the quality looks a little bit better than I would expect from a typical adaptation like this. It can be really hard to turn a novel into a comic and have all the same emotional moments really hit. And I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan of Chris Condon, but I think he might be able to pull it off, so we'll see how good it is. Next I've got issue 1 of Golgotha Motor Mountain. This looks like a gnarly, high-octane comic like Murder Falcon. It's written by Matthew Ehrman and Lonnie Nadler, with artwork by Robbie Rodriguez, people I've never heard of. I can't decide if I like the art style yet. It feels very kinetic and almost neon, so maybe that'll reflect the high energy of the story, or maybe it'll just make it feel discombobulated. I don't know. They were just trying so hard on the cover that I had to pick it up. Next I've got issue 1 of The Last Mermaid by Derek Kirk and Kim. It's in this weird, almost record album format. I don't love that I don't have a good bag and board to put this in, but I heard that it had really good reviews, so I picked it up. What can I say? I'm a sucker for comics that accurately portray axolotls, even though I would assume that mermaids exist in saltwater and axolotls are a freshwater fish. So I don't know how they're gonna work that out, but we'll see. Just paging through it, I can already tell that the pacing is really well done. They're giving us lots of time to sit with the emotion of the situations the characters are in. That's pretty promising. I think that this is going to be pretty good. Then I've got another oversized comic. It's Batman the First Night by Dan Jurgens and Mike Perkins. I normally don't pick up these giant magazine formatted comics because I just don't know where the heck to put them, but this is like an Elseworlds Batman that takes place in the era that Batman was created, so the late 30s, maybe early 40s by the time this story takes place. I mean, you show me a Batman comic where the villains have Tommy guns and I'm buying it for sure. And Dan Jurgens is just a stand-up guy. I met him at a Comic-Con a couple years ago. He's done a ton of great stuff for Marvel and DC. Then I've got issue 6 of The Sensational She-Hulk by Rainbow Rowell and Iguara. Looks like we have the wrong name on the cover. I wonder what happened there. I've been enjoying this series. I'm not exactly a huge She-Hulk fan, and I don't have really high expectations for it, and maybe that's why I'm enjoying it, but I think it's a lot of fun. It's getting the characters right, and it has real believable drama. Next I got issue 13 of Doctor Strange by Jed McKay and Pascal Ferry. I am like 4 issues behind in Doctor Strange, which should tell you something about how urgently I want to read it. I'm saying that it's not very good. But it's, you know, it's what's happening to Doctor Strange now. If you really care about the character, then you should pick up the title just so you're up to date with him, I guess. Next is issue 7 of Captain America by J. Michael Straczynski, and we have this new artist, Carlos Magno, and I paged through it, and I think his art is pretty good. It's not as good as Jesus Saiz's art. It's got a lot of technique that's similar to how Steve McNiven draws things, but it doesn't quite draw things as cinematic or as fluid as McNiven would. Who's that guy who does the comic Hell Cop? It looks a lot like his art. I do think that although this art looks a little bit awkward once in a while, it is a big step up from most other comics that Marvel is putting out right now. This art actually involves some expertise, some knowledge of the craft, and I really appreciate that. I'm also a little bit behind in Captain America. It was just a big disappointment for me for a few issues there, so I gotta catch up. We'll see if this gets better. Issue 4 of The Century is here. That's by Jason Liu and Luigi Zagaria. You know how I feel about this title. I've only read the first 2, and I haven't gotten around to reading issue 3 yet. It's just not that good. I surprised even myself by buying issue 2 of Underheist by Maria and David Lapham, because the first issue was not good, but it'd been so long since the first issue came out that I was just surprised to see this on the shelf. I think that since I gave this comic a bad review, I've read plenty of comics that are a lot worse than this comic, so maybe I was too hasty, but I'm still not convinced that it's anything special. And then the last thing I bought was this issue of Free Marvel Must-Haves, which has an issue of Spider-Man Deadpool, and an issue of Miss Marvel, and an issue of Immortal Thor. So if you don't normally go to a local comic store, you should go this week because they have free comics for you. And unlike Free Comic Book Day, where the comic book store has to pay for those free issues to give away, they don't have to pay for this, so it's a good reason to stop in your store. The issue of Thor that they have in this issue, by the way, is really good. It's issue 2 of Immortal Thor, and that series is just killing it. So that's everything I bought today. I know there's other stuff that came out, but this was already a really expensive week for me, so cut me some slack, alright? If you saw anything in this video that you want to see reviewed in depth, let me know, and I'll try to make a video before next week. And if you've read any of these comics, what do you think?